I'm Rachel Marie. I make music, and sometimes I talk to other people about how they make music. This is going to be the first video in a series. Who knows how long? It's at least two episodes. I have a couple of songs that get misunderstood relatively frequently in broad ways. One of them is Let Me Be, which I wrote for my best friend and is usually interpreted as a more typically generically romantic song. Another is Hello Stranger, which I wrote about the complicity of all white people in issues that involve race, and is usually understood as a Down with the Republicans song. Friendly neighborhood reminder, we're all complicit. Song's not about I mean, the song's about it's not. Anyway, today I am showing you the first iteration of this series in which I spoke to Amanda McCarthy about her song Elephant in the Room and to Genevieve about her song Back of My Hand, and how those songs are broadly misunderstood as well. My audio is embarrassingly bad in this first installation, so I will definitely be closed captioning this video. Sorry. I have puppy mom brain. That's my excuse, which is also why this video is coming out late, but nobody knows my schedule but me, I think, or if they do, they forgive me. Do you forgive me? Before we even get started, there will be a Spotify playlist linked below. It's a very short playlist right now, but it will get longer as we release more installations of this series. And if you are a musician who has a song that is frequently misunderstood, either in little lyrics or broad strokes, or even was just misunderstood the one time, let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. In the meantime, here is Amanda McCarthy and Genevieve. Enjoy. Hello, Amanda McCarthy.
Hello, Rachel Marie.
When I asked you if you had a song that people have misunderstood or that often gets misunderstood, you told me that your song Elephant in the Room has a funny story about being misunderstood. Can you tell me some more about that?
People hear Elephant in the Room and they usually think it's like a breakup song. And I mean, I'm cool with them thinking that, people can interpret it however they want. But I actually wrote it about not wanting to be in a band with somebody. It was back when I was trying to start a band, and I was jamming with one person and they were all hyped about it and they thought we were going to the top, and I just wasn't feeling the musical chemistry. I didn't feel like they were a good fit for what I was trying to do as an artist. But I didn't know how to tell them that. When I need to hurt people's feelings, I'm really, really bad at that. And I was even worse back then. So I just didn't say anything. I just didn't know what to say. I kept avoiding the topic. And eventually I spit out Elephant in the Room about the fact that I didn't want to be in a band with this person. And, eventually life just kind of took over and they forgot about the band anyway. Time went by, they heard the song and they fell in love with the song. And to this day, it's their favorite song I've written and they have no idea it's about them. You know what? I could probably tell them now and it would be fine, but I haven't, and I think I'll wait a little longer.
Was it someone you had known for a while?
Yes, we met through music and we were already friends. So it's not even that they were just someone I tried to work with. There was already an existing friendship, and that's why I was so just nervous about hurting their feelings in that way, even though it was a professional decision, and that's where things got a little weird in my brain.
I never thought I'd have to be the one to tell you, break it down after all that we've been through. Thought you'd get it. Yeah, that was it. Thought that you'd get it. Don't sweat it. I like picturing you in this room with this person and you just being like, you really think this is going well? Do you really?
In retrospect and in hindsight, I wish I had just been more upfront. That's something that was just a personal thing I had to learn to get better with in general, but I did get the song out of it. So at least it was kind of worthwhile, I guess.
Yeah.
So what do I do when there's an elephant in the room? An unexpected rendezvous. Seems to me I spoke too soon. Oh, what do I say when it's racking upon my brain? I can't lie to have the truth anymore. You just got what I'm looking for. Now what I'm looking for.
How would you describe yourself as a musician?
As an actual independent musician with the stuff that I perform, I would probably say, I feel like easily listening is going to let me in with Yanni, which is fine because Yanni's lovely, but It's just, it's more, I think it's a combination of like pop folk. It's got a lot of elements of a lot of things. There's a lot of blues influence. There's a lot of jazz influence. I spent a lot of time doing musical theater. So there's a lot of like dynamic and, you know, sort of showmanship to a degree in some of the songs. But because I also write for film and TV, I also have a whole different side of me, which can be like EDM, and I mean, I've done hip hop stuff. So it's, as an artist, I would say just pretty much eclectic across the board. Well, the phrase I used to use was eclectic emotive, which then I realized is a lot of people don't even understand what those words mean. I'm like, I should probably choose different words.
Actually, I've been thinking lately about how like I'd really love to write a pop album. And so then when I was listening to Back of My Hand, I was like, yeah, I want to do this.
I think the reason I end up having a hard time identifying with a specific thing is like I grew up and my influences were like Annie Lennox, Kate Bush was an influence, and like Peter Gabriel. And there was a lot more world elements to it and like dimension, I think, more of a soundscape. And I love soundtracks. I was always writing songs with the idea of, I want the whole production. I hear this coming in and I hear that coming in. And I was like, I got to be able to perform these songs without, I'm not going to have a, 40-piece orchestra everywhere I go. So I have to find a way to do some of these songs, at least some of these songs where I don't need that. And I can still get the whole idea of the song across. But Back of My Hand was one of those opportunities where I had a studio essentially given to me saying, go nuts, do whatever you want. And I was like, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you wouldn't know it unless somebody pointed it out to you as to what it is, but there's some funky stuff going on in it.
So you had brought up Back of My Hand when I was talking about songs being misunderstood, whether it's lyrics being misunderstood or the overall song being misunderstood. So can you just tell me a little bit about Back of My Hand being a misunderstood song of yours?
The interesting thing about the song was somebody asked me about 10 years ago to write songs to go along with a book, so a soundtrack for a book. And the initial book was about this woman who was trying to identify this hacker and sort of a QAnon or anonymous kind of person who was manipulating a whole lot of stuff and getting into a whole lot of stuff and doing a whole lot of damage and trying to find them, which is, it's so much harder to track someone online versus actually in the flesh, and being able to disappear sort of in the ones and zeros. And so I had to write like a song for each character, each of the major characters, for the themes of the book. And I sat down with this one because the initial idea was, well, this would be for the hacker. But as I started coming up with the idea, I was like, this is literally like, this is your heart talking. Only you really knows who you are. As much as you can, get really close to anybody in your life and as close as you can get, they're never going to know everything about you. And you will only ever know your deepest thoughts, whether they're the deepest wonderful thoughts or your deepest darkest thoughts. And the fact that you can be this person in the world and behind closed doors and within your head and your heart, you can be an entirely different person. And the way that you can sort of manipulate that to navigate the world. And so that's where while it was initially about the hacker, it became about each person's individual heart and like, yourself like the back of your hand. It's sort of this dark, like if we let our darkest impulses control us, you might end up flat on your face. Like somebody might figure out what's going on. Someone might actually be like, you might actually let someone in enough that they figure out the pieces and then the whole facade comes kind of crumbling down. And so when I was, was writing the song and people are like, oh, it's such a cool song and it's about like a vigilante or whatever. And I was like, no, it's not. Another thing was really funny is when I sing, particularly in songs like this, I get really lazy with my intonation and my enunciation. So some of the lines, it was kind of like that whole, what is it? Don't want to be your pizza burning for don't want to be your beast of burden. Like people were hearing words that were not funny at all. Like breaking bread with sin. They were like, what is that? And people would fill in the gaps. And then as soon as you start changing the words of the song, obviously then you start changing the meaning as well. It just became this, I was like, what? It's whatever you want it to be. Like every song, it's kind of whatever you want it to be. But the original intent was it's about us and like what goes on inside of us and how we could let our darkest side and our inner demons control us, or we can choose not to. But in this case, this is choosing and being like, I'm safe within myself. I am safe to believe these. And it's interesting at this time, this day and age too, with so much of the negativity that's going on and people sort of indulging their darker sides. And it's kind of like that. It's like this weird freeing, but also if you want to actually navigate the world and not be vilified and also probably put in prison or whatever, you can't live this way. It's a social construct and a social contract that we are all in this together and you can't just do whatever you want. And that's why the last part of the bridge is I wrote the code, I know the way, because it was playing on the whole hacker and computer idea, scripted the words, but sometimes the hunter falls victim to the prey. in a day now, will they find me or will I remain in hiding? And so it's constantly realizing that if you're going to be like, if you're going to indulge these inner demons, you have to stay in the shadows. And are you going to be found out, or are you going to choose to not live this way? Sometimes you can bury the song in the production. And so it's finding that balance too of, it needed to have an industrial feel because it was technically supposed to be for the hacker. It was meant to be dark because he was not a good guy. But at the same time, it was supposed to have these elements of give and take and relief and tension. So it sort of had this gentleness to it and soft. And then you can hear it sort of builds and all the breathing comes in, like the heavy breathing comes in and the darker elements start building. But then on the bridge, it gives it a bit of a release. It's not as dark melodically, but it still has dark elements. And so it just keeps the feel, the give and take going throughout the song, which was kind of the idea of you never quite getting the relief that you want, which is what, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you're holding whatever that deepest, darkest secret is that you have, you never get relief from it because you can't escape yourself. You're with you wherever you go. And I think now, especially with the pandemic, everybody's gotten really having to get really comfortable with themselves in a world where we've gotten really used to being able to distract from ourselves. I was lucky because I spent 8 years on a game reserve. So I was 8 years in a super remote area where I didn't have access to a lot of stuff. So I had to spend a lot of time getting to know me and being alone with me and being comfortable with me. And I think a lot of people now, this is truly the first time in a long time, if ever, that they've had to do that. They've had to spend time with themselves and get to know themselves, and all these things coming up, welling up, because the emotion of what's going on with everything, the stress of everything that's going on, it's bringing up all of these things in people. You can escape it in the tech, but you can't escape it. Like you can't escape it by going out to hang out with your friends anymore.
I think one of the most interesting things about Back of My Hand being a song that's misunderstood is part of what can make songs so powerful is that they have a universal message. And it's sort of like in this song, the universal message is something that people don't want to look at. They don't want to see that the message of this song applies to all of us. They're like, the message of this song applies to someone else who has darkness. Like, I don't have darkness. I'm fine. We're like afraid to sit down and look at ourselves in that way.
Yeah. The singer, or me in this case, is singing from their perspective, saying, I can walk away, nobody knows me, I can disappear. Instead of saying they can, or this person, or like choose a character and make it an expose. Wait, not an expose, what's the right word?
Exposition?
Exposition.
I don't know.
Thank you. It's like it's somewhere in the expo something. What's the exposition? Thank you. Like you said, you don't want to look at it as yourself. You want to look at it as somebody else. But when you have to force yourself, like if you're singing this song, whether it's me or anyone else who just decides they want to sing it, suddenly you become the character. This becomes about you. And yeah, in Back of My Hand, I mean, that's such a common phrase of, I know something so well. I know it like the back of my hand. And it's like, how well do we know ourselves? You know, how well do we really know what we're capable of? Like if we were really pushed to the edge, what would we do? And yeah, that's not something people like to think about. Mostly because hopefully you can never have to be in that position. But it's incredible the number of times that you realize that, especially as a female, I feel like in this world with the whole Me Too movement, the number of women who have been pushed to a point of, this is a real dark area. I need to get out of this. What can I do? Or people of color in a lot of the situations, like so many of the police brutality issues right now. What do you do? How do you react when you've got a gun to your head? We literally have when your rights have been completely taken away and stripped from you in whatever capacity, how are you going to react? And I think a lot of people are scared of that, because even though it's a self-preservation thing, it's still scary to think, I don't know, like the unknown is so terrifying for all of, like, we just want to know. We want answers for everything. We want everything to be prescribed and scripted and understood. And we are probably the most unknown territory in a lot of ways, while being the most known territory in other ways. It's such a weird dichotomy. Basically, it's a song about holding up a mirror.
I don't know if you have a keyboard around, or if you would want to play any, I don't know, like you talked specifically about the bridge. I don't know if you would just like want to play the bridge or something.
We'll see how this will sound, but I'll take this over. Hold on. So the chorus is, I know this place like the back of my hand. I own this place like the back of my hand. The back of my hand. I wrote the code, I know the way. Scripting the words I need to say. Sometimes the hunter falls victim to his prey. Any day now, will they find me? like the back of my hand. I'm holding this place like the back of my hand, the back of my hand. So yeah, it's a weird, like it changes from the really dark, and then it's funky. It's dark. One of my really close friends she's actually a trained opera singer. It was in LA when I did this, and she happened to be in LA. And so she came into the studio, and her father, who's also a trained singer, came in, and they did parts with all these like dark sort of chorusy things along with it. She added all these cool, really high, ridiculously high notes that we just turned into essentially instruments to add to this, to give it that like crazy, there's a dark, deep side, and then there's these super high parts. So again, showing sort of the breadth of how deep are you going to go, how dark are you going to go, and how light will you reach for. And it's like all these questions of who am I, who have I been, facing myself. So it's funny because it's, you know, again, like you said, everybody wants to interpret it as it's somebody else, and it's, oh, it's this and it's that. And like I said, it's like the bad guy or the you know, the vigilante, or which is not necessarily the bad guy, but the person who lives by their own design and doesn't follow the rules of society without thinking that, you know what, this is all about all of us and the choices that we make. And the verse is living like the wind, no bounds to hold me, no one to scold me when I cross the line, breaking bread with sin, finding the loophole, tripping the sinkhole, and leaving the wreckage behind. I can walk away, nobody knows me. I can disappear into oblivion because I know this place like the back of my hand. I own this place like the back of my hand. And it's all about that, caught between the lines, which is, you know, caught between, is it the good or the bad? What am I choosing to do? Writing the story. I'm creating my story as I go, looking for glory at someone's expense. Am I living my life for me? Am I living it for someone else? Am I taking advantage of someone else to help myself? Blending my design, which is essentially like creating this person of who I am, because we're always creating ourselves. We're learning, we're growing, and sometimes we're actually manipulating and creating this facade so no one can trace me, so you can't necessarily be known fully. I have no face and I live under pretense, but someone's on my game. The dark can't hold me and shadows only hide when there's light, which is the whole idea of there's darkness, and there's darkness in all of us. The only time you ever see the darkness, though, is when the light is shined on it, because otherwise it's always dark or it's always light. But there are no shadows. Yeah. There's no contrast if there's no light to bring to cause a shadow. Musically, it's not the most exciting song in terms of like, oh, these cool chord changes here, and it changes and it twists here, and it's a major lift and blah, blah, blah. It's really, the whole song is essentially 4-5 chords. And it doesn't have a whole lot of change. Like, there is a difference in the melody, but the chorus isn't like this boom. It's just this flow, I think. And I wanted to try to get that across. Instead of having these big changes, I wanted to keep that consistency across of not getting distracted by something, because again, no matter how hard we all try, we can't leave ourselves. Like, we are us. We're stuck with us. I felt like if you changed it too much in a chorus, I felt like that meant you could leave yourself behind. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You're stuck within those confines because you're stuck with you. No matter where you go in this world, no matter what you're doing, no matter how much you achieve or whatever, you're still you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't usually think of a chord progression as looming, but like, right, like you can't break out. That's the whole thing. You can't break away from.
Yeah. You don't get that, it's like there's no relief from it. And that sounds so dark and scary because it's like, oh my God, there's no relief for myself. But at the same time, it's not so much just the no relief, it's always there.
I hope you enjoyed that first little bit of this series, and I hope there's much more to come. And I will be putting up a cover video soon. My schedule is a little off because puppy, but it will be very soon. So if you want to know when I put out a cover of Take On Me, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell. Stoked for that. And see you next time. Bye.
Are you my precious gem? Is your chewing the cutest chewing in the whole wide world? Sweetie, can you show the viewers your chewing? Are you a Muppet? Are you a Muppet? Are you a Muppet? I'll scream. I'll scream. Yes, we allowed her to chew up this cardboard. Don't at me. She's precious. She's a precious Muppet horsey. Okay, bye.